So look, we know Ubisoft has had some massive missed opportunities over the last decade, particularly when it comes to the Assassin's Creed franchise. I mean, they seem to be really set against giving any of their new characters sequels. In fact, the only character who did get sequels, Ezio, wasn't even originally supposed to have them either. AC Brotherhood was initially conceived as a DLC for AC2, and Revelations was originally supposed to be a Nintendo 3DS game called Lost Legacy until that was cancelled, and the concept was used for Revelations so that Assassin's Creed could become an annual franchise. Point is, there's a lot of characters in this series that deserved, and arguably needed sequels, and never got any. And while maybe you could argue that Edward already had a full character arc in Black Flag and didn't need a sequel, it's still puzzling why Black Flag didn't have a successor in some way, shape, or form. Unless you count Rogue, which, considering it's mostly the same in terms of gameplay, I wouldn't consider that much of a successor. AC Black Flag was the highest selling Assassin's Creed game for a long time, and Black Flag remains many people's favorite game in the series to this day. And it's safe to say a lot of that had to do with the pirate setting, naval combat, all that. So Ubisoft, in their infinite wisdom, wanted to capitalize on the popularity and success of Black Flag. However, instead of greenlighting a sequel, they started a project called Black Flag Infinite that you may know today as Skull and Bones, which Black Flag Infinite was supposed to be a DLC for Black Flag initially before it became a full game. That's a common trend I'm starting to notice with Ubisoft games. A lot of them start as DLCs. I just talked about how Brotherhood was supposed to be a DLC for AC2, and obviously Mirage was supposed to be a DLC for Valhalla. And if you saw my video a few weeks ago about the complete development disaster that Skull and Bones has been through, being delayed 6 times and is still not out after its initial planned release in 2018, they've been working on that game ever since Black Flag came out in 2013, so about 10 years at this point. I said in that video I made on Skull and Bones that to me it would have made way more sense to develop a Black Flag sequel, and I wanted to expand upon that today. I'm sure in hindsight, with everything that's happened with Skull and Bones, that Ubisoft wishes they just went with a Black Flag sequel instead, but I'm just not sure why that wasn't the immediate thought back in 2013. It's a slam dunk opportunity. People already know and love Edward Kenway. Black Flag sold incredibly well. There's absolutely room for a story to be told after Black Flag's ending. You can just take the foundation Black Flag had built with the gameplay and naval combat and just build and expand upon it in a sequel, rather than starting from scratch creating a new IP in which there was no clear creative vision from the beginning. Now, in the comments of that Skull and Bones video, some people were saying they actually could have made a Black Flag prequel following Edward in his days as a British privateer, eventually becoming a pirate. While that does sound like a cool idea, I'm not sure if there'd be enough story there to warrant a full game. Maybe something like that would be good for a DLC, but I definitely think there's room for a sequel just after Black Flag. Obviously, Edward died pretty young at the age of 42 in 1735. However, when Black Flag ends, Edward is still only 29 years old. Of course, before that time skip with Hatham at the end, but that's 13 years of story that can be told, and a lot of it is told in Assassin's Creed Forsaken, the novel. There's so much good material there that could easily be a game in my opinion. Seeing Edward join the British assassins, having him learn more social stealth and assassin techniques, while still being able to get on a ship and explore and partake in naval battles. As for the story, you can see him meet his new wife and become a family man as he simultaneously rises the ranks and becomes a co-leader of the British Brotherhood. And then the story could end with his death in 1735. I would love a game like that, and I know a lot of Black Flag and Edward Kenway fans would too. Not only that, but you could get to see more of Haytham and Reginald Birch to give better understanding to why Haytham became a Templar for those who haven't read the book. It would also be so satisfying to see Edward mature as a person, because obviously he develops a lot in Black Flag, but we don't get to see much of it since the change happens towards the end. So getting to see him become more responsible, start a family, it would have been really rewarding to see that as an audience, knowing where he started in Black Flag. It just seems like such a missed opportunity, and I would have much preferred that personally, as opposed to waiting for Skull and Bones. And who knows, in that game maybe you make a DLC of Edward in his early days as a privateer as well. There's just so much potential and opportunity there, and Ubisoft completely missed out on it, which is not uncommon, but it's certainly frustrating to look back on. It was a win-win for Ubisoft, because you know a Black Flag sequel would have sold incredibly well, and on top of that, it actually makes sense to have a sequel for story purposes. But again, we're kinda lucky we even got those sequels for Ezio back in the day, because they almost didn't happen. I wonder just how different this series would be now if that was the case. But regardless, there's no point dwelling too much on it since it's in the past and there's nothing we can do about it. I highly doubt we'll ever get a Black Flag sequel, especially now that it's been so long, but who knows, there's a very slight chance we may see Edward again someday, especially with Infinity or the multiplayer game that's in development. That's rumored to feature all the AC characters, so maybe we see him there. Maybe even a DLC. Far Cry did something like that with the old villains of the series, so why not do something similar for the old AC protagonists? I don't know, just pitching some ideas here. I really hope one day in the future, Ubisoft decides to stick with a character and give them a sequel. Maybe if one is like Ezio level beloved, that could happen, but it seems for now, the plan is to continue with a new setting and character in each new game. Which is fine, but some characters I would have loved to see sequels for. Connor, Edward, Arno, Bayek, I mean all of them had so much opportunity in my opinion. But let me know in the comments, do you think Ubisoft missed out on having a Black Flag sequel, and would you play the type of game I described? As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. Big thank you to my members for supporting me, and other than that, thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day, Assassins.